Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your
The
financial affluence.
six-figure
It's a
setup.
setup to make you get up and get into it. Allow me to influence your financial affluence.
The six-figure setup.
But nothing in this world that I like more than checks. Money. All I really wanna see is the money.
Go get the money, go get the money.
My check.
The six-figure setup. In this week's episode of the Six Figure Setup podcast, host Tiffany Gillespie interviews Dr. Tammira Lucas, founder of the Cube Cowork. They discuss how their upbringing in Baltimore prepared them for business ownership, how to balance family and business, navigating success in multiple industries at the same time, along with building a community that is loyal and profitable. Grab your notebooks and be sure to take notes. Hey guys, what's going on? It's your girl Tiffany Gillespie here, host of the Six Figure Setup podcast. So excited to be back with you all for another episode, and I am even more excited because I have my friend, my sister. She's been so many things to me throughout my life and like the years that we've known each other. Dr. Tammira Lucas, and make sure you put the doctor on her name. All right, so I'm really excited. Thank you so much, sis, for being here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. And of course, I'm so proud of you. I'm excited to be here. You know, anytime you call, I'm there.
Always. And I definitely appreciate that. So we're going to hop right into it. I'm not going to, belabor the point. I'll give you all a quick introduction because I think it's really important that you all understand who Dr. Tammira is. Y'all going to hear me call her Tammira, Tam, Doctor throughout the podcast. All right. Because we're going to put some respect on her name because she definitely worked for all them degrees and all those letters and all the things that she has that's connected to her. So first and foremost, it's really important that you all understand that she is not a coach. That's a term that gets used like so loosely, but Dr. Tammira Lucas is an expert business consultant, and y'all, again, because she's my friend, I know the inside scoop of all of the organizations, people, enterprises that have reached out to her over the span of her career for assistance with building their businesses, with developing business or prescribing business solutions to the challenges that they're having. She's not one of those people that shouts from the sidelines, but she really gets in the trenches with her clients to help their businesses to grow. And she really develops expert strategies that help her clients to achieve their business revenue and sustainability goals. You all know here at the Six Figure Setup, we are always talking about six-figure revenue, profit, and salary, and how you attain and sustain those things. It's cool if you get it, but it's better if you can maintain it. So that's something that Tammira really specializes in, and she literally can build businesses like in her sleep, right? She is one of the busiest women that I know, and really has her hand in strategic pots. A lot of times when you hear that people are involved in different things, sometimes it can kind of present as if they're like confused or all over the place or whatever. But trust me, everything that she does is strategic. She's worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, corporations, colleges, universities. So if you or somebody that you know falls into one of those categories, this is the podcast episode that you do not want to miss. And her goal is really focusing on helping Black women. I'm really excited to talk about the Cube Cowork. I won't get ahead of myself, but my good sis just knocked like some milestones out the park. I mean, she's breaking records out here. And again, I could just go on and on and on with just all the love and all the things that I know personally that I've been privileged to see, behind the scenes and at the forefront. So we're going to talk about some of those things. But Tammira, I'm going to toss it it over to you. Is there anything that I may be missing or anything that you kind of want to say before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about today?
First of all, that was an amazing introduction. Send that over to me because I'm going to make everybody use that moving forward. I think the one thing that, and I know that you're going to talk about this later, is really highlighting the fact that I'm a mom and I'm a wife. And that's really huge, doing everything that I do and being a Black woman and being able to maintain that. So I'm definitely going to talk a little bit more about that. But I do want everyone to know that before I am an entrepreneur, I am a wife and a mom first. And I make sure that anybody or that I'm working with, they know that, right? Like if my husband or daughter calls, I'm dropping everything and I'm going. And so I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're definitely going to get into family dynamics. And again, because I have been privileged to journey with her throughout the years, I know her husband, I know her daughter, I know Granny. I've been blessed to spend time in their beautiful home that is so peaceful. And that's something that's a little life note for y'all. Y'all want to be in places where there's a spirit of peace, right? And a spirit of joy. And that's definitely what she has in her home and carries that with her. So not only, are we friends? We met through one of our mutual friends, Raven Hocat, and Raven to be on a future episode. But we met some years ago. I want to say at this point, it's maybe been like 4 or 5 years. It could be a little bit more than that, but it's been long enough, right?
We've definitely been longer than that. It's been like 8 years because we've been in business for 6 years. So
true. Very true. So so it's been a long time, right? And another thing that we share in common, that the three of us actually share in common, me, her, and Raven, is that we are all from Baltimore. So they are like born and raised. I was like not born there, but raised there. That's my home. It's what I claim. So I really want to get into kind of just like some childhood things. We'll start, like in adolescent years, maybe not childhood, but we both know, Baltimore is a eat or be eaten city. You definitely eat what you kill. And I really just want to touch on how, I know what being raised in Baltimore did for me, but what did it do for you? And how do you think that your upbringing impacted who you are as a business owner today?
That's an amazing question. And I talk about this, I think, more now than I did before, because I feel like as Black people and Black women, everyone always wants us to come from a struggle story, right? And so I talk about it, but I don't talk about my upbringing as a struggle. I talk about how it did prep me for everything that I'm doing now. And so I grew up in Baltimore City, y'all. The real West Baltimore, which y'all saw on The Wire, was actually filmed in East Baltimore, but it was about West Baltimore.
Let the people know, okay? It's West Baltimore over here. We don't know
where I grew up at. Born and raised. I actually didn't move away from West Baltimore until right before my daughter was born over 12 years ago. And so it was different. It's not, ironically, it's not what it is today. We had a lot of fun in Baltimore City. But what it really did teach me is like community and the power of community. But it also gave me the tenacity, because I realized as an adult on how much our communities lack resources, education, like just a whole lot of things in order to make you successful. Like our community is designed strategically to keep the poor poor and the rich rich. But of course, I didn't know that as a child. I just watched everyone around me live the status quo, and being who I am, honestly, I'm just like the weird one in the family, because everybody seems like they all act like, except for me, in the sense of I did not want to live that life, right? Like I've had every job possible that you name it. We laugh about it a lot in my household, about the different types of jobs that I had. But the reason I would leave so often is because I refused to live the status quo, and I refused to be unhappy. I would watch my mother and people in the community come home from work barely can pay the bills, unhappy. And so for me growing up, I just knew that my way out of poverty at that time, and we got to think about where we are now versus where we were when I was growing up, was education. My ultimate goal had always been to be the first doctor in my family. I knew I didn't want to be a medical doctor. Y'all don't want me to do anything medical wise. But it was a personal goal for me. It wasn't because it wasn't me getting this degree because I wanted to do X, Y, Z with it. I wanted to be an example. And I knew that if I could be whatever it is that I wanted to be, that all of my siblings and all of my cousins, because it's a lot of us, don't mess with the Smith family, it's a lot of us, would see that anything is possible and they can change their trajectory in life. And so growing up in Baltimore, it did provide me the foundation to really just go for it no matter what, like knowing that anything is possible. And that if you've grown into this place that was meant and designed for you not to be successful and you're able to get out of that, it gave me like the strength and again the tenacity to keep going. And in my head now, I promise y'all, I be in my own little world. Tiffany knows this. I move to the beat of my own drum because I know that anything is possible and you can make anything happen if you're consistent, with it, and if you are committed. And not only that, if you have faith. And I think that's the really important part. In Baltimore, we went to church.
Amen.
I went to church every Sunday, and I enjoyed church. Of course, as a baby, like not baby, but real young, it was like, why are you dragging me here to this place every Sunday? But as I got older, I was extremely committed to going to church. And hearing, just the word and just being in that environment, it just really helped develop me from a spiritual standpoint as well. And so everything that I do it with God. And that's just important. I just know he's not going, even in my worst days, when I feel like it's just like, why me? I know that he's not going to put more on me than I can, that I can't take. And not only that, he's using me as a vessel, right? So, when things happen, it's like, okay, but what's the actual learning opportunity here? And how can I help anybody else go through this? So that upbringing in Baltimore really provided a very strong foundation and very tough skin, because we crack a lot of jokes here. And so if you don't have tough skin, not gonna
listen, you gotta have the tough skin. Man, you said so much that I want to unpack and just get into and dig into deeper. But I definitely agree with you. One of the examples or stories that I always tell about growing up, I grew up on Park Heights, like right near Northern Parkway. And across on the other side of Northern Parkway is like predominantly a Jewish community. They really kind of stay to themselves, like all the way up Reisterstown Road going out towards the county. And anybody that's watching this or listening to this are probably like, if you're not from Baltimore, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you are, then you know what's up. And I remember the reason why like these streets are so important and to be named is that they were a clear like marker of the difference in communities. Once you crossed over Northern Parkway, like you were in a totally different world. The houses were different. It was cleaner, quieter, nicer. And then the further and further that you went out toward the county, it just like really got better and better. Houses got bigger and bigger and everything you could see. And still to this day, you can see the literal difference between the communities. So when I was growing up, I didn't understand like economic disparity. I didn't understand like the differences between what I was seeing. I just knew that there was a difference and I wasn't okay with the difference. I had no idea that business was going to be the way that I helped to close that gap and move that line and just make it totally different. So so we are going to, with that point though, I'm going to stop. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then we're going to come right back because I really want to dig into everything that Dr. Tammira just said. And I don't want to get on my soapbox about, economic disparity and business disparity and stuff like that. There's another podcast for that at another time. So we're going to take a quick commercial break and then we're going to come right back.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Six Figure Setup Podcast. I'm your host, Miss Tiffany P. Gillespie, and I'm live with my good friend and the expert business consultant, Dr. Tammira Lucas. So before the commercial break, you shared about your background and growing up in Baltimore, and there was so much that you gave that I literally had to pull out my note cards because I'm like, oh wait, I want to talk more about this. I want to talk more about that. So I want to talk more about community. You mentioned that was one of the biggest things, or kind of I guess just like structures that you observed growing up, was the power of community. So what has community meant for you so first let's do this. What is community to you, right? And then what has your community, because you have a very specific community in business, what has that community done for you? And you can just kind of flow with whatever you want to share about community building. So I'll just toss it over to you let's just talk about community.
So let me just say this. And first, growing up, it's so funny because Tiffany and I both grew up in the Park Heights community in Baltimore, which is so crazy because, we met later in life. But growing up in a Park Heights community is probably when I first really saw the power of what does that look like? I mean, I was outside riding my bike, walking to the store. All of my neighbors, listen, I couldn't do anything wrong because let me tell you, we're like family at this point. Somebody's going to tell, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm scared. I don't want Mr. Darryl next door seeing me do this, or, and growing up, we didn't really understand that because to us, especially as Black people, everybody our cousin at this point. If you close and you cool, you're my cousin, and we going to roll together. And so when I got older and I was disconnected from that community, especially abruptly, I realized the power of it and why we actually need that. I didn't feel 100% comfortable walking from Northern Parkway, where I went to school, 5 blocks down the street, because I didn't know anyone. And I'm just who's watching me, right? This is not cool. But then when I went down to the projects with my family, where my grandmother lived, that was another community. I could walk through now that I realize what I used to do, I'm just we really used to be up in the morning in these projects and nothing actually happened to us, right? And just to kind of see that transition from where we used to be to now, it's we don't value the power of that. And moving into who I am today in community, knowing people, building good relationships, I could not be where I am today without those relationships, old ones and new ones. And so I see the power of being able to pick up the phone and text Tiffany and say, listen, I'm coming to where you are, to North Carolina, and I need XYZ. And you're oh, okay, cool, not a problem. Let me connect. That is powerful there, right? Being able to literally call the mayor and be hey, can you do, or what do you think about?
Because she has those kind of connections. That wasn't that was a humble little flex there. But again, I told y'all, I've been privileged to see the behind the scenes. So when I say that Tammira really she is who she says she is, and knows who she says she knows.
But I think it's super cool to be able to have those relationships, right? And not just because you need something from someone, right? I try to build genuine relationships. I know a lot of people all over the world, and it's always sometimes hard for us to stay connected from a genuine standpoint, right? But what I see is I will never forget in 2012, I lost my brother abruptly in a motorcycle accident. And I think for the first time in my life, although I was building these relationships and I had community, it was the first time that I actually realized I had community, because everyone was coming from near and far to really like wrap their arms around me during this time. I just think that being able to build a solid community, period, overall, it's more valuable. I always say your net worth your network is your legacy worth. It's not just your net worth, right? It's that legacy that you want to live. And so I was super adamant about building a strong community for Black mothers. And I saw the lack of support, the lack of resources, and just like the blatant disrespect that Black moms in urban cities get on a consistent basis, but yet we are the backbones of our communities.
Yeah.
You can walk down the street and find a babysitter, get your hair braided, get a meal. We are those that are running or the behind the scenes in the church. I was the treasurer at church. Just knowing like the power that we have in our community, but yet none of the resources or support comes directly to these households. Moms, especially in cities like Baltimore, are the head of households in our communities. And while I would love for that statistics to change and we start, raising families together, it is the reality. And unfortunately, we have to address them and help them. The crime that's happening around us and the lack of generational wealth is not because people wake up every day and say, oh, I don't want to do anything with my life. I don't want to make money. It's because they don't have access to these things. If you don't have proper transportation, if you don't have affordable education, if you don't have something simple as childcare, which costs the same amount of you buying a car, a brand new car, every single year, and you're living below the poverty level, how would you ever be able to build generational wealth? And so what I was adamant about is not utilizing my story as a crutch, but utilizing it to help people. Every single thing that I do, whether I'm making a lot of money or no money at all, is for my community, for people that look like me, so that they can have opportunities that when I first graduated high school and went to college, I went to a PWI and I had classmates getting dropped off by their drivers or talking about their butlers. And I'm in this whole new world. Like, what do you I barely got food here, right?
Listen, me too. Yeah.
And so I'm like, no. Yes, I know that there's two different worlds out here, the white one and the Black one, but I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help people that look like me, that struggle just like my mother, to giving up on their dreams because they became parents, right? And sometimes we feel like we're punished because we are mothers, because we became parents, instead of embracing that, because if we don't create new life, nobody's going to be left on this earth. So, and not only that, most of the ideas and the businesses that are out here today came because of women that look like you and I, out of necessity.
Yeah. Whew. So I got chills, man, when you were talking just about like the importance of the resources and how people don't wake up saying, you know what, I don't want to be successful. I don't want to make more money. I don't want to, build a legacy for my children. And a lot of it, like you said, is just due to lack of information and resources. And I think also feeling like that it's accessible to you, because especially in today's age, I don't think that there is any shortage of access to resources and information in America. Now, if we start talking globally, that's different. But in America, there's like, you can literally get on a free social media platform, right? And get information about anything, I mean, good, bad, or indifferent, that you want to learn about or know about. So there's no shortage. But I think sometimes like success seems distant to people. It's like their reality or their thing, but it's not attainable to me. And I think that you and I both know, as Christian women, and you've shared about your faith, everybody knows I'm a Jesus girl, that we have to, like, you have to first believe that what you desire or dream of is accessible to you, that it's not off limits to you, that it's not a blessing for that person over there only, but that it's also something that you can attain as well, before you even begin to say like, okay, because I believe that it's possible, now what are the steps that I take? Now who do I need to know? Now where do I go? What's next, right? So it's first believing that it's attainable to you. And I also really like what you said about genuine relationship building. That is something that is important to me in my personal life. Anybody who knows me knows, like, I'm not the friend that is going to talk to you every day. I got 50 million things to do. I know that you're the same way. You are a wife, a mom, a daughter, a cousin, and then all of these other roles and titles and responsibilities. But one thing that I do know about myself and about the people that I call friend is that we show up when it's needed, right? And not just when it's needed. Like, I'm not just going to show up for somebody in moments of tragedy, but that our presence is the gift that we oftentimes give to one another, and being really genuine about nurturing that relationship, whatever that nurturing looks like in between. So I just want to leave people with a point about building relationships in general. If you're bad at building relationships in your personal life, you're probably not going to be good at it in your professional life. And if you are good at it professionally, but you're not good at it personally, then your priorities are out of order. And I would say that building genuine relationships and connections, it looks different, right? It's not, that doesn't mean that you talk to someone every day. What it means is that you don't just talk to them when you need something, right? That you are interested in building a relationship with them. So I want to transition, or just kind of keep moving along, and talk about some of the most important relationships in your life. I want to start with motherhood. We are going to talk about being a wife, but I want to start with motherhood because you mentioned something when you were talking about just moms, and like, especially, you know, in urban cities and lower income areas and things like that just get abused verbally, mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, like in every single way. So how has being a mom impacted you in business? And can you talk more about your community of moms who are entrepreneurs and like how that came together?
So yes, I became a mother. I think I was 22, but I wanted to be a mother. I was very adamant about, you know, becoming a mother, and it's not easy for me to actually birth children, or, you know, to get pregnant. And so I didn't realize that becoming a mother would change me so much, right? I knew that I had already prepared of like my child. There are just certain things and standards that I am going to have for my child. Like, I don't care what I have to do, if, you know, whether I'm with my husband or not, this is non-negotiable. Like, my daughter had to go to private school. As an educator, it was important for me not only to put her in the best education, but also around a network. Because the reason why I failed out of my college the first time is because it was a new world to me. I didn't know how to interact with people that didn't look like me or didn't come from places like I came from. And so it was everything that I felt like I didn't get, I wanted to make sure that my child does. Now there's a catch-22 to that. That's a whole different podcast of being a mother. But it changed a lot. When I birthed my child, I actually birthed my first business by myself. And it was just a children's custom accessory line that came out of my daughter being bald-headed, and I wanted to, you know, she had to be fashionable. But what that did was it made me realize that as moms were purchasing my products, they were really more interested in how did I start this business. And for me, starting a business and understanding business is a talent. It's just like, your hairstylist, your makeup artist. But I didn't know that. I just thought like, oh, I'm very interested in this and I study it. I know it. It's easy. It comes easy to me. But what I do is not just because I went to school and got 3 business degrees. It's the experience. It's also how I think, my creativity. Like everybody's one of a kind. And so I devalued that in the beginning. I just wanted to help people. Like, oh, you don't know how to start a business? Let me help, let me help you. But what that created was a community of mom entrepreneurs. And so I launched with a partner, the Moms as Entrepreneurs, which is now the National Association of Mom Entrepreneurs. And our goal was just to simply provide entrepreneurship resources. We started out as a podcast. It grew into a conference, and now it grew into this big organization that's becoming a membership-based organization that provides entrepreneurship training resources and a network of other mom entrepreneurs. And so just seeing that, we have moms that literally came into our first cohort that we launched in my church basement, literally, with no money. Believe in, like, I see what you're doing and I want part of that. We've had moms that left their job right after that. And I mean, some of them had federal government jobs and have been in business for the last 8 to 10 years since we existed. And so being able to help mothers that come from communities like I've come from, that look like me, and not all of the moms that have gone through our program were Black women, but 95% of them are. But even with that, seeing people, having moms to come to us and say, we like what we're seeing, we want to be part of this, you've helped this person do XYZ, and they're actually excelling. Because one of the things in the role that I am in, it's a lot of pressure. I'm ultimately responsible for someone's livelihood. So I would never want to just sell them BS because I'm just being part of the problem, right? And that wouldn't even sit well with my integrity or my heart. Like I want to die. When I die, I want people to have an encyclopedia about all of the things that I was
Amen.
And not things that I lied and said that I did. So I'm really that. In our program, we've been able to have partnerships with Morgan State University. We've been funded through the Kauffman Foundation, Etsy, and just helping mothers take their natural talents that they have and creating sustainable businesses, because what we are very adamant about is creating generational wealth in Black communities. We are going to change what that looks like, and continue to really invest in them. And so that's just been a very pivotal moment in my life to be able to take, things that I've seen in my community, or issues that I've seen in my community. Because remember, business is all about providing a solution to a problem. I don't care if you're a nonprofit, for-profit, or in between profit. You don't have a solution to a problem. You don't have a business. You have a hobby, and that's fine if you want a hobby. But I wanted to really solve a few of the problems in my community and other communities that look like mine. So that has just been that's the foundation of me being a mother, helped me really develop how I'm going to help people. And I don't know if I didn't become a mother, would I even be focusing on this? I have no idea. But I do really contribute my success to my daughter. And not to mention, through everything that I've been able to do, she's the one that has taken most of the sacrifices, right?
Ooh,
but she appreciates those sacrifices because I've always included her in the process of every single thing that I do. Ryan is an entrepreneur. She owns a vending machine company. She got me running it half of the time, but she owns the company. And she wants to be an entrepreneur. She's creating a lip gloss line now. And so just to see, I don't have to force me being an entrepreneur on her. She wants to do it. Really showed people don't think that you can do everything that you want to do and still be a mother. And that was something else that I wanted to change. Like I wanted to change that voice. Like people really think that when you become a mother, you have to sit in the house all day or, watch Coco Melon. And that's not it. Like we travel, we grow together. I do a youth entrepreneurship camp every year at the Cube, and I always give Ryan the option, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to this camp or do you want to do something else? And she's like, no, Camp Cube is the best camp ever. I want to go. She's like engaged in it, and like she's not like, oh, this is my mom's camp, I can do whatever I want. Absolutely not. And so that just shows the power of being a leader, but also how your kids really do watch every single thing that you do. And so you have to understand, like, don't feel guilty about following your dreams. I couldn't make it to all of the gymnastics meets, all of the dance recitals. I'm missing back to school night, but she's not sad about those things because she's included in everything that I do. And so don't feel guilty, when you have to sacrifice something for your child. It's just the way that you communicate those things. And if you feel guilty, then your child is going to think like, oh, well, it might not be something good because now my mom feels guilty about it. And so I just learned not to feel guilty about it and not to overcompensate either. I'm like, listen, sis, I can't do this. I got to write this dissertation. This is not a forever thing, but we're get through this together. And so I just think that becoming a mom really transformed me to who I am today.
I love that. I love when you said that starting a business is a talent. I wrote that down because I think I needed to hear that for myself. And maybe most people, when you are gifted in something and it kind of comes like second nature to you, I think sometimes we don't acknowledge how creative and special it is for us to be able to do that thing. So, being able to start these businesses, I just became a partner in a fitness company, and then I'm working on, starting another business. And to hear you say that just now, like, it really is a talent. And like, I can do this in my sleep. Like setting these businesses up, getting them, a solid foundation and getting them where they need to be in order, to have the highest possible chance of being successful. That really is a talent. And I also appreciate, and we're going to talk about this real quick, and then we'll take a commercial break, the legacy and the kind of legacy, a legacy that is filled with integrity that you desire to have. That is definitely one thing that you and I have in common. And I think that's why we have always just bonded so well in the area of business, whether we were working on a project together or just supporting one another, is being honest. Like I am concerned about the business development world right now and just how
I am very concerned.
Yeah. I'm definitely very concerned about the current status of the business world. And so let's just like, what are you seeing that you would want to caution people about? Because I mean, we could probably do an entire podcast episode talking about the foolishness that we see out there.
So, oh my God, let me try to do it at least like the 5 top things that I see. One, I just see everybody wanting to be the expert, right? I am very adamant, even at the institutions that I teach at. People say, well, what do you teach? I say I teach all things business that's not accounting or finance. Am I qualified? Absolutely. Is that my thing? Heck no, it is not my thing. I refer people to that. I don't just look at everything and say, oh, this is an opportunity to make money, I'm going to take it. No. And so everyone being the expert, and it's fine, like, respect your expertise, but really, like, hone in on what it is that you actually are great at. You don't have to do everything, and you ultimately don't even have to be an actual expert. You can just show people or teach people to do the things that you've done. Because the reality about business and what people don't understand is that my journey in business, regardless if I give you every step that I took in business, is going to be totally different than your journey. It's just like having a baby. The way that I deliver my child is going to be totally different than the way that you deliver your child. It's simple, right? We're all different. And so I want people to really realize that. The other thing is, what I see a lot is that they allow the Instagram life to supersede reality. I don't care how many Gucci bags you have. I don't care what type of car you drive. Like, I drive a minivan on most days. Like, I don't care about those things. It does not determine how successful you are in business. My business is extremely successful. The co-working space is extremely successful. What people don't know is I don't take a salary from my business. And I do that. I've done that strategically because my business is much bigger than me. It's not for me. I'm not building that business for me. I'm building that business for my family and their legacy there, right? So I will put everybody on payroll before I put myself on payroll. Because I also have other ways, a lot of
other ways that you get into the money.
I don't really need the income either, because Uncle Sam is just crazy. But
amen and amen.
I just say that to say, like, what you see on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok is not really reality for everyone. And you have to remember, you have to understand how to filter out information and people. Everyone doesn't know everything that someone says just because they have 1 million followers. It may not be true. It may not be true, or it may not be true for you. Okay. And so that what they say is multiple ways to skin a cat, right? So again, the way that I've done things is going to totally be different than the way that you do things. The other thing that I see that people don't do, and this, I'm gonna bulk this all in one. They don't do enough research on what it is that they are trying to do, and even if they're trying to do it with someone. We have the world at our fingertips. I tell my students all the time, and they don't believe me. I was around with typewriters and encyclopedias. That's how I did my book reports. Computers didn't start being a thing, or Google. We had Ask Jeeves before we had Google.
Come on.
It wasn't like it is today. And so we have so much information at our fingertips, but people are lazy and they're not doing the work to do the market research in the industry they want to get in. And in that market research, they're also not doing customer discoveries. Like, you're guessing what your customers want instead of actually asking them what it is that they want.
Simple.
And that goes into your entire market research. Just because I put on Instagram, like, oh, this worked for me and I got 500 million followers, that doesn't mean that it's the truth. And so you have the opportunity to say, let me do basic research at the very least and see if this is actually true. And the way that you guys can do that, honestly, is test it out with scholarly journals. And you can do that on Google Scholar. Like, see if there's any like deep research about it, or pull up some databases and pull some data out. And I just see people not really paying attention to that and just wanting the lifestyle of the actor. And the last thing is realizing that success doesn't happen overnight. I don't care if someone knocks on your door right now and offer you $100,000 for your business just because. You have to know where you're going to put that money and how that money is actually going to grow, and understand the financial literacy side of things. People are not paying. Again, they're looking for material things to define their success, and success is not defined by material things at all. I worked with a billionaire for years, and this man wore simple stuff, nothing that was, we used to laugh at him in his Wrigley book bag because he carried that book bag like he still carried that book bag, but he has a house in Santa Fe. a house here, a house in Michigan, like, and he's like rich, right? And so he sold his car and was riding a scooter. Like, he's like, I don't even need a car. And so I think for us, we define success by material things so much. And listen, I like nice things. Trust me.
Yep.
You will see me with nice things, but I don't look at that as the defining of my success and what it is that I do. You have to put the work in. You have to give it time. The first idea is not going to be your final idea. You have to work towards it and say, okay, this didn't work. So now what, right?
Yeah.
And kind of make that pivot in your business. Several pivots happen very often. And so I just see that a lot. And I want people to understand that it's not easy. Being an entrepreneur, like making 6 figures plus in your business, generating 6 figures in revenue and taking home 6 figures in revenue is two total different things. And understanding what that looks like. And so I would say those are the things that I see very often. And sometimes I just want to throw the phone across the room because I'm like, here's another Joanne. I call them Joanne the scammers taking people money and not giving what they need. And so you got to be mindful of that. I'm just letting y'all know that it drives. It's my biggest pet peeve, honestly. Like
absolutely, and it really is. Like I've been in like meetings and like not meetings, just like time together, where she'll see something and it really, really does get under her skin to see somebody out here scamming. So, yeah, I thank you for sharing all of those things. Again, that could be its own podcast episode in itself, but you just dropped a lot of gems. And I wanted to circle back to something. We're getting ready to go into a commercial break. But I wanted to circle back to something really quickly, because I don't want people to miss what you said about the salary, right? Is that, and let's be clear, Dr. Tammira Lucas said, that she does not take a salary from one of her businesses. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't really understand, like this kind of sacrifice. And again, I think it's really because the world sells like this misconception or like these fallacies about business ownership, but literally like they're the business that I just invested in. I know for a fact I won't be taking a single penny home from that business for at least a year. It could be 2 years. I haven't told the story on the podcast yet about the salon. I'm trying to wait to get my partner for that business on, but literally we opened the salon February of 2020. The shutdown happened 6 weeks later, and we were closed for almost a year, even when the restrictions were lifted. When y'all think we start taking payouts for the salon, right? I mean, it took like 2 years before I started taking a payout. And now we are at the space and so blessed in that business that it's generated so much money that we had to like move some money. Like, it's like, all right, there's too much money sitting over here. We need to like move somebody somewhere else. But we also didn't take owner's pay for me, it was almost 2 years that I didn't take an owner's pay. The same thing with the cleaning company. We had been in business for like 18 months or more before either one of us took an owner's pay. And I think that people, first of all, if you're going into business to make money, you're going into it for the wrong reason, but you don't stay in business by not making money. And that piece about the salary, and there have been times, even with my consulting firm, there have been times where I would go without taking a payroll or a salary for myself for months at a time, because I just like if I was teaching, and this is one of the things that I loved about teaching at the collegiate level, is that teaching a few classes took a little bit of my time, but paid my bills for the month, which meant that I didn't need the money from my company. So I could take that, and instead of taking a salary, I could reinvest it, or, whatever I wanted to, or save it, or whatever I wanted to do, with that money. So I think that was a point that I wanted to clarify, because I don't want people to think like, oh, like we're not doing no broke business around here. But when you get to the point of having multiple businesses, you will quickly see, or multiple streams of income. And this is like, people talk about streams of income all the time, but if that stream ain't streaming, then it's not a stream that you can count, right? If there's nothing coming in, like you can have 6 businesses, but if they're not generating revenue, I mean, what are we really talking about? So when you get to the point of owning multiple businesses, like myself and Dr. Tammira, you will see that it actually becomes easier to make a sacrifice. Like, hey, I don't need to take money out of this company from the onset. I can take that money and reinvest it until the business gets to a place where it can afford to pay me a salary, over and over. So I wanted to clarify that. We're going to jump into the commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be wrapping up this interview with Dr. Tammira Lucas. We're going to talk about the Cube co-work and what she's going to be working on in the coming months. So make sure you stay locked in, and we'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Businesses have life cycles just like humans, and what they need at each stage will be different.
Yeah, it's a setup.
All right, welcome back, guys. Thank you for sticking around. This is the Six Figure Setup Podcast. I am your host, Tiffany P. Gillespie, and I am live with Dr. Tammira Lucas. We have had a great time in this episode of the podcast. We've already agreed that she's going to come back, because there are literally so many things that we didn't even get to touch in this episode. But one of the things that's really important about this podcast, and the loyal listeners and viewers know this, is that this is not just an inspiration podcast, right? We want to make sure that business owners, current or aspiring, have the resources and the tools that they need in order to actually attain 6-figure revenue, 6-figure profit, 6-figure salary, and to be able to sustain that. So as we do with every single guest, I always ask them to share one of their 6-figure secrets. So Tammira, can you share your top piece of advice for earning 6-figure revenue in your business? What's the number one thing that you think that people need to know about earning a 6-figure revenue?
So not dependent upon one stream of revenue in your business. When we created the Cube co-work, it's a co-working space, right? So everyone would assume that most of our money comes from memberships, right? From our co-working, from the actual co-working memberships. But we knew, as we did our market research that I talked about earlier, the success, in fact, well, actually, co-working was brand new when we started. Like, it was no books, anything, nothing out here. We had to create the blueprint. But the way that I thought about it in a strategic way is, how can I make money through every inch of this actual space? So even if you're in an online environment, you got to think, what are all of the ways, all of the different streams of revenue that we could potentially make? And then kind of narrow that down to actually what makes sense for that particular market for now and for the future. And so that's what I had to do. I had to think about, where was co-working going to go from we started in 2016 to where will it be now in 2022 and moving forward. Now, we didn't predict the pandemic, but the pandemic was actually a very good strategic move for us. And so we looked at, all right, let's not look at this as a negative thing. Let's look at it as a positive thing, and how we can flip this and be successful. So my secret is really doing the total opposite of what already exists. Think outside of the box, because what's going to happen is, if you're constantly thinking within the box, you're going to get the same results, right? If I thought the same way WeWorks thought about co-working, not that they weren't successful, but I would probably be closing my doors, or had to close my doors, because I didn't think of it that way. And so don't feel bad because you're thinking about an industry differently. Leverage that thinking to develop revenue streams in your business. Don't depend on one revenue stream, because I'm telling you now, you got to think about those if-then statements. I ain't understand it at first when I was in math of if this happened, then this. So remember that if this happens, then what? Always have those plans. And so I think that's been really the secret. And also being true to our brand. So many people wanted us to do different things. And I would just be like, okay. But in my head, I already knew, like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's not what I want to do. Because at the end of the day, you wake up not wanting, you wake up not loving your business anymore or loving what it is that you do. And the other thing, I know I was supposed to give one, but the other thing is build a business with your exit strategy. No one ever talks about that. What does the end look like for you? For me, I'm going to be on somebody's beach in a few years. Like, that's where I'm going to live at. And so how do I actually get there with this particular business? And so you got to develop your exit strategy at the beginning. And I know it sounds weird because you're like, well, I'm not getting into business to end, but you should. There's two reasons. You're either going to sell your business or you're going to pass your business down from generation to generation.
Yep.
And so you need to determine how, if I'm going to sell this business, what's going to be valuable to the person that may want to purchase the business. And so I was just right before this, I was consulting with a new tech company, and he said, I didn't think about it like that. I'm like, yeah, what's the value here? Like, you got a great idea, a great product, but what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years? Do you want to keep selling this great product?
Yeah, for sure. And exit strategies, again, watch out. There's so many things I might have to bring you back on. I ain't trying to. If y'all want more help, you got to pay her to help you develop an exit strategy. I'm not bringing her back on to talk about that. You've heard it. And if you want to know more about it, pay this woman to help you with that, because exit strategies are very important. I remember the first time one of my mentors asked me that, and I was like, well, I don't know. I guess I just plan to kind of work like as I do until I retire. And she's like, well, when do you want to retire? And I'm like, probably like 50 or 60. And she's like, at the time I was in my late 20s. She's like, you do realize it's like 30 years from now. Like, so you plan to be working in the same business for the next 30 years? And I was like, wait, no. Okay, so I need to develop an exit strategy. And what does my life look like after I am done with this business? As we have both stated, like, we're both in multiple industries. We have businesses in multiple industries. So even like stopping work in like one business, we may continue to invest. We may continue to, consult for our own businesses instead of consulting for other businesses. Like there's life after an exit strategy from the company that you're currently in. So I want to talk about your big baby. Now, I call the Cube the big baby, honey, because again, I've been privileged to know some of the behind the scenes. And when I say the Lord did upgraded like this, sis, okay, and like the way that happened, it was like, it was so beautiful to be able to like know behind the scenes. Like we would be in meetings for other things and like be talking about the Cube, like, yo, like this is about to happen or this is what we're working on. And it was so big. So first and foremost, the Cube is the largest Black woman-owned co-working space, I believe, in the country. I know for sure in Maryland, but I believe it's in the entire country. Am I correct with that?
You are correct.
Okay, I'm gonna say that one more time. The Cube is the largest Black woman-owned co-working space in the entire United States. Y'all, that's Dr. Tammira Lucas. Like, and y'all, everything that she told y'all need to listen, because she is literally a pioneer. Her and her partner, opened up the Cube, and they have been rocking and rolling for many years now. And literally their mission at the Cube is to create a world where raising a family and running a business is completely normal. So Tammira partnered up with her business partner, Takesha, and they are literally like revolutionizing and pioneering and being so innovative in this space. So can you tell them more about the Cube and like, you know, how can they find you all? How can they like be a part? Like, let's get into that as we wrap up today's
That is
podcast episode.
definitely my baby. And I honestly cannot thank God enough for just the blessings that, you know, he bestowed on us, because it's just like, we started out as a 1,200 square foot space in an old building. All I had was faith, a vision, and a good support system. And, you know, everyone came in, did some sweat equity. And during the pandemic, we grew into being the largest Black women-owned co-working space in the United States. And so we had
during the pandemic. I want to stop. We gotta stop at that point. So first of all, I want to talk about the original Cube location, because when I did a tour, I think it was the Purpose of Prosperity tour is what it was called years ago. And I did my Baltimore tour stop at the Cube, the original location. So to see like, and I thought that space was amazing, but when she said that they like, not we're just like doubling in size, but it's like quadruple, like they literally just grew exponentially.
I appreciate all your prayers and everything. Like, I mean, Tiffany is very consistent with praying for her friends and family, and I truly appreciate it, because I'm telling you, like I said in the beginning, this was a white male dominated world that I came in. People would, you know, pat me on the head, oh, that's a great idea, right? But no one was really investing. And I think the key to that is that we've had no investment in our business. We own 100% of the company right now. Now, we are about to seek some investment dollars, of course, for growth. But I think that it's really important to understand, like, we bootstrapped this business with our own money to get to where we are, but we've been consistent. My sister is Takesha, and she had no business like background of anything. And so my goal was, if I'm going to help people create generational wealth, I need to do that with my family. And so when I called her and said, I got an idea, we're going to revolutionize the way that we do co-working. We're going to be on the front of all of these magazines, because no one's thought of this. But we quickly realized that other people did, but it wasn't common. And she was just on board. And so we just, you know, literally brick by brick, figuring this out as we go, but keeping faith and keeping true to our mission. We have now 17 office spaces, 3 meeting rooms, an event space, and on-site babysitting play area, just like your gym. And so we offer co-working memberships, we offer office rentals, virtual mailing addresses. We have over almost 200 virtual mailing address members. So that's where, if you are looking to build business credit and you need an actual physical address, you can't use a PO box. We are here to service you in those needs. And so we have clients all over the country, actually. We have events in our event space. We host events the last Tuesday of every month for women. It's called Growth Beyond Me. And this month, it's all about women in the beauty industry. So we're going to have some experts talk about, you know, their journey. So we've been able to really build a strong community, and I'm loving where we are right now in business. I can't believe it, y'all. Like, I'm speechless half the time. I'm speechless. But the cool thing that we're doing, we are expanding. I'm super excited about this. But we are purchasing the real estate for our business. So we're buying a $1 million building in Baltimore City. And so one of the reasons when we talk about me not taking a salary, and I'm always strategic, is because my salary is the investment into this real estate purchase, where I will then quadruple what my revenue will be for myself. And so that's that strategy there. And so our goal is to, I've honestly, in the last week, I promise y'all, I have been asked about franchising or helping other people to start. And we're actually working on our licensing model as well. And so people will be able to purchase Cube Coworks in their areas.
Come
So
on.
our growth is like, I'm trying to be the Pinky Cole of co-working spaces.
Come on. I love that. I absolutely love that. So on that note, we are going to go ahead and wrap it up. As she mentioned, they do have an event that's coming up on Tuesday, September 27th. So make sure that you follow Tammira and the Cube Co-work on social media, get onto their mailing list, visit the website so that you can get more information about that. Tammira, how can people, stay in contact with you?
So follow me on Instagram so you can see me balance all things business, motherhood, wifehood, and granddaughterhood. I'm at the business DR, so the business doctor, which is Dr. DR. You can please follow the Cube at the Cube Co-work and stay connected with us. We have pitch competitions, free events all the time, because our goal is really to help cultivate generational wealth in our community. And so we're going to do that by any means necessary. So just reach out if you're interested in consulting. I mean, reach out to me. I don't know if I'm really taking clients right now.
She's been busy.
Right. You might get lucky out here. So
you might. All right. So thank you so much. I know she can't hear y'all, but wherever you are, just please make sure you're giving a round of applause. Send her a message on social media if this podcast touched you or if anything was helpful to you. Leave a comment on our podcast page, on the YouTube page, if this was helpful for you. So to my good friend, my good sister friend, Dr. Tammira Lucas, thank you so much for making time to come onto the Six Figure Setup podcast. And I look forward to having you back in a future season.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, guys. So that's it for today's episode. It was so powerful. Like, I literally have an entire note card of just like bullet points that I'm going to pull out for the show notes and things that I'm going to use when I'm promoting this on social media, just different clips of things that she said that's so important. So as we do in the Six Figure Setup community, make sure that you take notes and that you implement everything that you learn. So I look forward to seeing you all, or you all hearing me, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure to follow me on social media at I Build Businesses on Instagram, and make sure that you all tune in for next week's episode of the Six Figure Setup. I'm your host, Tiffany P. Gillespie, and I'll see you all next time.